Hey everybody, it's Mary Sheila from Occidental Nutrition, and I'm excited to be here with my friend, my newest friend, Julie O'Brien of Firefly Kitchens, up there in Seattle, Washington. Hey, Julie.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Good. It's so funny because we got introduced via a mutual friend, and when she told me about you and that she had been your neighbor, I realized that I had met maybe not you, but your business at a nutrition conference and really connected with one of your employees. And I I kept visiting the booth all weekend to get little samples because I love fermentation, as a lot of people who know me know that it's been like I feel like fermentation saved my life when I needed it. And I love to ferment. I love to teach classes. And you have a whole business that you created out of fermentation. So I'm just curious, like, what got you into ferments? And you're also a nutrition professional as well, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I love the fact I'm sure that we crossed paths at that same nutrition conference, and that was right before the pandemic. But
yeah, March 2020.
yeah, that same nutritional therapy organization is where I first learned about fermented foods 15 years ago. And I was being trained to work with holistically helping people change their diet and introducing them to different supplements that can help them along their journey. But the first week of class, I learned through Nourishing Traditions, Sally Fallon's big
Yeah,
book.
oh yeah, that's a lot of our teacher is that
Yes,
our first ferment
traditional
teacher.
foods from around the world. And I remember reading these 4 pages about fermented foods that were naturally fermented. And I was blown away that I was 40 years at the time and I had never heard that fermented foods were good for you. And I had never even really eaten them because I grew up in Alaska where, the only Kraut around was what you saw at ball fields, Anyway, my father was going through colon cancer at the time. And I just had this when I read through the list probiotics and enzymes and fiber and vitamin C. I was just blown away that this wasn't mainstream. And I'm like, I could find 20 different supplements to give my dad that I could have a bottle of probiotics, a bottle of enzymes, a bottle of fiber, all of those different things that are in Kraut, or I could just make him these foods. So that's what I started doing.
Oh,
That was
nice.
my inspiration. And I started with making carrots. So our yin yang carrots that we have now and they're just all based on, Sally Fallon's traditional recipe of gingered carrots.
Oh yeah, that's right. I love that one too.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. And now how long have you had your business,
The
Firefly
business
Kitchens?
is going to be 13 in January.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's been a long 13 years. And, we have 8 different flavors of kraut and kimchi. We've got brines, that correlate with that leftover brine. We have a hot sauce. We have another product called Pureed probiotic that I've heard so many people over the years say, I know it's good for me. I just don't like kraut. And so my big thing I always tell people is just change the texture, chop it up, throw it in a smoothie. So pureed is just our plain kraut blended up like applesauce.
Ooh,
And when I
that
was,
sounds yummy.
well, it's not as yummy as applesauce because it's, kind of sour vegetables, right? But it's basically what it is now when it's in that applesauce form. You can stir it into hummus, into tapenade, into guacamole, into peanut butter. You can make a probiotic peanut butter by stirring
Ooh,
a
like
teaspoon.
peanut sauce.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
mix
please.
our kimchi with peanut butter all the time to get a really creamy, just garlicky, gingery peanut sauce, which is fabulous,
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get really excited about these things.
You're in good company, I'm telling you.
How did you
Um,
first learn about fermented foods?
I also learned from Sally Fallon's book, and it was, there's a couple things that I learned early on that I just, as soon as I learned about them, I gravitated towards them. But I did get that book early on and it just really spoke to me. I'm trying to remember when I first made my first ferment but I just, I had been on so many antibiotics growing up all the way to like age 19. And then that's when I got my tonsils out. And I I guess I got that book. I don't know. And then I started making it because, you couldn't buy it in the stores back then.
That's
I mean,
impressive.
maybe you could buy some, but I didn't know about it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it is today. So I started making it, and it's funny because her method is that you always add like a little whey, which a lot of us don't do anymore
Yeah.
because we really know it changes the probiotic or bacterial profile, but it kind of quickens things. It's almost like, oh, let's have a little insurance and put the whey in there,
Right.
right, when we make it. But it also makes it stinkier and stronger. And so it was always a little struggle in the family of like, oh, that stinky kraut.
Oh, tell me
But
about it.
I always say, like, when I started eating it, I could not get enough of it. I was just like, and I remember my husband was like, honey, you kind of smell like sauerkraut. And that's when I was like, man, that is just not sexy. I don't know about that. So it was a good, sometimes you have to hear those things to reevaluate it. And, like sauerkraut is a sour is hot, and, too much can be drying. So there is like a balancing act, and some people even have histamine reactions to things like that are fermented. So there's a balancing act of like how much and all that and which kind. And so that was, hearing that from someone that I love kind of made me go, oh, am I eating too much? So finding that balance, which is actually something that'd be kind of fun to talk about, is like, people always say, how much ferment should I eat? Like every day or this and that. And what is that? Like, how do you answer a question like that?
Well, I say what you just said. It's all about balance, but we like to call it balance. My younger son made that term up years ago when I was talking with a functional medicine doctor, and we were like, it's really just all about balance, right? Isn't that something we're always achieving in our lives and with how we want to feel, right? But I feel like I share with people, start small when you're going to start eating it. And there are people who say, well, I can't eat it because I just get gas. And it's like, the food's not really causing the gas. I mean, if you're getting gas from it, there's something else that's probably going on, and it's just assisting with what needs to be done and in your body. And I remember when I first started making this stuff, I was actually making kefir first 15 years ago, and I would go in and I would tell my instructor, oh, my belly's just, like it feels like it's too much. And he just like, Julie, you've got World War III going on there because you're putting all this good bacteria in there, that it's going in there and cleaning up and doing its job. And so, it's like, the term healing crisis, right?
Right.
That's real. And sometimes things have to get better or they get worse before they get better. So
Right.
we suggest start small, and I think a little bit every day is better than eating a half a jar in a sitting. A half a jar in a sitting is absolutely fine if you have a strong gut and you're used to it. But I think that the daily consistent, forkful going in is going to do your body the most good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good way to think about it too, is like it's a condiment, and all the condiments that we use really started out as ferments. Like ketchup,
Yeah.
does have vinegar in it. So there's a ferment aspect to it, but everything started out. So think of it as almost like that ketchup. It wakes things up, right? If you're going to eat something like a French fry, it really wakes up the whole energy of it with the ketchup. And that's what ferment does. And so if it's a condiment on your plate, it adds that liveliness, that acid, that
It
like
elevates.
happy sour, right?
It
And
elevates.
so yeah, and we don't need that much of it, but you can eat it to taste, right? And there's so many different kinds of ferments too. It's not just kraut, even though kraut is a wonderful way to explore it. We can also do it sometimes with like the kefir or the yogurt. Like so many things are fermented that But yeah, so just thinking of it like, oh, can I have a little condiment on my plate? And you might like a little condiment on your breakfast, and you might like a little condiment on your lunch. You might like a little condiment on your dinner. Like, it's okay to kind of include it with the meal, because ideally too, I think of when we're eating a meal, we want to incorporate the 6 flavors, right? We want to incorporate, like, most starches and proteins are kind of considered sweet foods because they're building in nature, even though we don't think of like chicken as sweet, it's building in nature, right? And then there's salty, we add salt. Salt helps to liquefy. Salt, we add salt to things to kind of tenderize and help break them down, which is what we do in fermentation. And we've got sour, sour also liquefies and stimulates our liver gallbladder to get into action to, help with digestion. And we have pungent, right? We add a little spice, which super activates digestion. And then there's bitter, also activating liver, gallbladder. And then there's astringent, which is kind of drying. But we've got all these flavors. And the more we can incorporate those into a meal, what happens when we really have a full profile, we get that last flavor, which is like umami, which is like, ooh, this flavor and that,
All of
like
them
it all
together. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And like that makes a meal not just like nourishing and supportive of getting all our juices going, but also like we get that yum factor. It's like, ooh, and satisfaction. And then the more we're satisfied, the more we can move on to the next task. Sometimes if we're like restrictive and we're not, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I still crave this and I still want this and I still want, right? And that's like the goal is to eat a good meal, rest your digestion, eat another good meal, rest your digestion, right?
I love how you say that though, because it really is, again, it comes out to the balance. If you have all of those flavor profiles, your palate is satisfied, and it's like all the essential things to help your body do its job to digest, And the thing that's so great is it just makes everything taste better going down, I always
Totally.
say, I think of it as the icing on the cake. And I can't even tell you, my kids are 22 and 24, and they've grown up with their, crazy crowded mom who everything anywhere. And I eat anything. I'm like, you know what this needs? And it's always just, I feel like whenever I'm out at a restaurant or any place, I'm just like, yeah, this is a great sandwich, but it's just kind of meh. It needs the crunch. It needs the
You're all pulling your Kraut out of your purse. You're all, oh,
it does happen sometimes.
Doctor this up a little.
We have a burger place down the street, and every time we go down there, I just take a jar of Kraut and I just stick it on I'm not shy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know. We're like, oh, bring me my good olive oil, bring me my good salt, bring me my good Kraut.
I always like to tell people too, so often, like, we are so salt and sugar, salty sweet is what Americans, it seems like that's what makes up most of the standard American diet is sugar and salt. And so getting some of these, the bitter and astringent and sour, thinking about having all those things, like if you're building a bowl, throw some bitter greens in there. And then by having some dried coconut or some of the starches you said that are more, on the sweeter side, it does just help with that balance, and you just get satiated and you stop. I just think it's easier to not overeat when you're eating good food.
What's your favorite Kraut on your line of Krauts? Do you have one?
I feel like I probably most often eat our kimchi. It's just really garlicky and gingery. There's no fish or shrimp in there. And, we're really, we're not trying to compete with traditional Napa cabbage kimchi. We're just trying to make a really, we're honoring that tradition, and we use their Korean red pepper and then garlic and ginger, and we use green cabbage. So it's really more of like a spicy Kraut. But
nice.
I eat it with eggs. It's great with fish. I mix it up with peanut butter to make that peanut sauce. And but yeah, I like them all. And the plain one that we have is just a go-to because it can slip in to any meal, you know what I mean? Because it's just plain kraut. And so I really always try to encourage people to just make kraut at home, because I really believe it's so crucial to a healthy immune system and digestive system. And so just it's just I think it's kind of cool to just have a crock on your counter, just always making, just always
Yeah.
in that. I kind of look at it as you're growing, you're taking healthy food and then you're just kind of cultivating it or nurturing it as it turns into something even healthier. That's pretty cool.
Totally, totally. I know when I was a teacher one year, I taught at Bowman College, and we had a little graduation, and I made sauerkraut for all my students. And I have said, you came into this program as cabbage, which is really good and healthy, and now you're leaving as kraut, like you've up leveled, right? And it's like one of those ways we can up level, preserve. I know like there's more B vitamins present, there's more vitamin C. We've got all the bacteria that are just now like that were there, but now they're like, they've multiplied, they're healthy. And the cool thing I know is like you eat a kraut when it's young, you get certain bacteria, and then the next time you eat it, it's going to be kind of a different profile as like the generations
Yeah,
move on. I mean, there is a point where they might all be like, oh, we're done. We've eaten
right.
everything we could. We're tired and old. And so it's like, when you eat it regularly, you're kind of introducing different things your
Absolutely.
biome. And your microbiome is like, that's one of the things that's probably the most taking off in science and research right now is microbiome science. And the more we can care for and nourish our microbiome and support it, the better we are. And one of my teachers talks a lot about like, when we introduce probiotics, which kraut is one of them. It's almost like if you think of the economy or like a tourist town, right? This is your town, and there's more tourists coming, so they're stimulating your economy. Like I love thinking
Oh,
of it that way.
that's the economics of the microbiome. I love that. Well, and that's
Yeah.
the thing, people too, so many people don't hesitate to just, buy a 30 or $40 bottle of probiotics. And it's like, why would you not just eat them? Because you're
Right.
getting your body knows what to do with a fork full of kraut, whereas if it has to break down, I'm not dissing on
Right.
probiotics because sometimes they're really essential for people to heal from, different things going on.
Yeah.
I just look at kraut as it's about as medicine-y as food can get, right? And
Totally. Totally.
good too. So it's almost like
Yeah.
prevention too.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Yeah, totally. So you have like a little give the gift of kraut. Just tell us a little bit about that for a
well,
second.
I
A minute.
feel like everybody's, immune support and being healthy is, I think, top of mind for everybody. And so often during the holidays, people end up giving, sugar and booze is an easy is an easy gift to people, right? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
people, why not help people feel better and give the gift of kraut? It's like the gift that keeps on giving. you know so we have all sorts of different, we now have gift cards available on our website. We also have different gift packs, sampler packs,
But
promote.
people can order online from you though right now.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
they can order
And
online.
give the gift of kraut and give it
Yeah.
as gifts and stuff.
Yep,
That's
yep.
awesome.
I think it's a great thing to send to somebody if they move into a new house or a birthday gift. We have a kimchi bliss box. It's our kimchi brine, and the kimchi hot sauce. And then we have salts,
Ooh.
3 different kinds of salts that all have freeze-dried kraut in them. And so
Oh, wow.
like our kimchi salt is freeze-dried kimchi, which is that umami. And the salt's different than anything else out there because um, there's a lot of flavored salts, but there's no umami in those salts. Maybe people put rosemary or they put different spices in there, but ours has actual ground up kimchi in it with
Mm.
garlic and ginger. And so that on scrambled eggs, just takes plain old eggs and makes them just exciting, and
That sounds so good. I'm gonna get you some of your salts. And I love the kimchi box with the
yeah,
hot sauce
yeah.
and the salt and
It's
the
a
oh,
great
the
it's a great
brine.
gift. I'm trying to put together a probiotic CSA, where we can just be delivering monthly subscriptions to people, but we do have online monthly subscriptions too that people are welcome to order.
Nice. That's awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, you can check out Julie's website. It's a really beautiful website too. And yeah, and give the gift of kraut if you so, or give the gift of kraut to yourself. That's what
Yeah,
I'm going to start with, I think,
yeah,
to my
and
family. Yeah.
well,
You
and
know,
we
and it, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say we also were on Instagram and we share lots of recipes and we love hearing from people. Like if people have questions like, what flavor goes great with this, or what's a great gift to give, or how would you suggest getting this into my child? Or like I have a mother who's in her 80s and she doesn't, she can't, all of her food's prepared for her and blended up. And so she gets kimchi blended up with avocado and her scrambled eggs every morning. And this is my mom who was, a diabetic the whole time I was growing up, and I spent so many years trying to help, and she just wasn't interested in eating healthier, bless her heart. She just liked the sugar. And it's just sad because the Alzheimer's sugar correlation, but she looks better than she's ever looked in her life as far as I'm concerned. She just looks radiant because she eats so well now because of our caretaker. So it's a really easy tool to help people feel better.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll just say, if you're somebody that's like, I don't like it, I respect you, but I would just say, like, try it again.
Yeah.
Because it it's the one of those things. And a friend of mine, I have some friends that have a kvass business, and they sell, like, I was asking my friend who's married to the guy that makes it, and I said, when they go to shows and stuff and they give people little tastes, and the beet kvass looks like wine. And they said, what do people say when they drink it? Because she said they're always kind of very suspicious, like, Then they take a sip and they're like, that's weird. That's different. And then they go, can I have some more? And I think that's what it does. Like, there's this ancestral, like, I don't want to say ancestral longing, but for lack of a better word, but it's like we have it in our body, kind of goes, oh, yes, please, more, because it's so part of our DNA. Like, this is how we've evolved. We've evolved. Every single culture has evolved. I mean, and we're doing it all the time. I mean, coffee is fermented, chocolate is fermented. Most of our cheeses and
Yeah.
dairy products, they're all fermented. Bread is fermented. Like, we have known this skill. Black tea is fermented, green tea is
Yeah.
fermented, like
Yeah.
everything pretty much we put into our body has a history of being fermented, or maybe it's been tweaked from having that history. So it's absolutely in our DNA, and it's absolutely our a great thing we can be doing for ourselves. And so thank you for having this business and helping to
Oh, thank you.
heal the guts of people with your wonderful krauts. And I love them. Like, I have to say, I mostly had them a couple years ago, but I could not stop having them. And they were so delicious. And every time I eat something, I'd come over, I'm like, can I have a little kraut on this? So
Well,
it was
thanks for doing
delicious.
the work you do, because we need more people. People have mostly learned about fermented foods from naturopaths and acupuncturists and health coaches, because you guys are the ones that know, and you are the ones talking to people who are having successes. And that, at the end of the day, that's just what makes me happy, I have heard a mother say she got her 6-year-old off of prescription laxatives just by eating just by eating a spoonful of our plain kraut a day. That's pretty,
Oh, that's amazing.
you know,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
anyway,
Woohoo.
I know the one
One
other,
gut at a time,
yeah,
Julie, one gut at a time.
Well, the one other thing I want to just say is that craving that people get when they, when you're like, you just want more. And that's one of the number one things people say when they taste our stuff. They go, it tastes so fresh, which is such an ironic, it's such a funny thing for a bunch of older vegetables, right? Or fermented vegetables. But I know that craving that people have is the good bacteria that's in our body going, wow, finally, here come my friends, so I just think that every forkful that one takes, just knowing that your body is doing, somersaults. And I like to visualize little fireflies going in there and lightening the load and
Nice,
body.
nice.
So
Firefly Kitchens. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julie. And yeah, and I'm excited to collaborate more with you. So thanks.
sounds great. Let's whip up some
Yeah,
stuff.
thanks everybody for watching, and please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for being here and being part of the community. And yeah, check out Julie's awesome Krauts and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.